presidential race, marred by months of unrest that threatened democracy in one of West Africa's most stable nations. Good morning to you here in Dakar and to you in Liberia, Ghana, the Gambia, and wherever you tune in from and across the world. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the live coverage of the 2024 presidential election in Senegal on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar, and online WADR.org, Facebook, and YouTube live streams. We also welcome our listeners on Radio Pod Damango in Ghana and Kwateke Radio 100.9 FM Banga Bomi County in Liberia. I am Imo Adet, and for the next hour, we will be bringing you live updates from my colleagues on the field and all you need to know about this election, especially for our international audience following this coverage. Well, it's been a tense past 2 years in Senegal as the election is taking place after much uncertainty following President Macky Sall's unsuccessful effort to delay the February 25 vote until the end of the year, and then announcing a surprise amnesty for political prisoners. Today's election is set to be Senegal's fourth democratic transfer of power since it gained independence from France in 1960. It is also the first vote without an incumbent on the ballot since term limits were introduced, and there is no clear front-runner among the 19 candidates, including one woman. Over 7 million registered citizens will vote at more than 16,000 ballot boxes to pick a successor to Macky Sall, who has ruled for 12 years. Now, on the Senegal's electoral system, a candidate needs to secure more than 50% of the vote to win and avoid a runoff. So who among the 19 candidates will be this successor? Just before we share with you the candidate's profile, it's important you know the build-up to this election. Now, this leading us to the vote was marred by a fair share of political drama. Originally, it was scheduled to take place on February 25, but because of the decision of the incumbent President Sall, that plunged the country into chaos last month, and then he announced he was delaying the vote to December. This move sparked deadly protests as well as pushbacks from the opposition and Sall's critics, who saw the delay as an attempt to breach the country's constitution and bypass the president's two-term limit. Eventually, a decision by the Constitutional Council to overrule the postponement led to President Sall setting today, March 24, as election day. But the debacle has shaken Senegal's reputation as a stable democracy in an often politically volatile region. Voting opens 8 a.m. and closes 6 p.m. with more than 16,000 ballot boxes to be opened across the country. And to secure the top job again and avoid an election runoff, candidates will have to win more than 50% of the vote. Stay with us here as we bring you the profiles of all of these candidates. Well, in beginning with profiles, let's hear Anta Babacar Ngom, the youngest and only female presidential candidate in this election, as the electorates decide who takes over from incumbent Macky Sall. Ngom is an entrepreneur and founder of the Alternative for a New Generation of Citizens ARC movement.
Aujourd'hui, je suis non seulement la plus jeune.
Today, I'm not only the youngest, but the only female candidate for this presidential election. The entry of a woman and young women into the Senegalese political landscape represents a decisive turning point and a strong symbol of change. Now, this embodies a break with the traditional pattern that we have known so far to new perspectives and new ways of conceiving politics and leadership. And that is what we embody.
Je m'engage à travailler sans relâche.
I am committed to working tirelessly to promote a responsible, transparent, and inclusive governance that finally places the priorities of Senegalese people at the heart of all decisions. Issues related to agriculture, farming, fishing, the appreciation of natural resources, craftsmanship, access to care, the promotion of the school level, the professional training, and every opportunity will be seized to give back to our country. I am an industry captain, so industrialization is at the heart of my program for my country.
Mon programme pour mon pays.
There you've heard her, the only female candidate in this election, Anta Babacar Ngom. And of course, she is the youngest, an entrepreneur at that, and the founder of a new generation for citizens ARC movement. Now, one of the 19 candidates in this year's presidential election is Ali Ngul, one of the dissidents of the ruling Beno Bok Yaka coalition. The native of Linguère, north of Dakar, the capital city, held several ministerial positions during the reign of President Macky Sall. However, frustrated by the choice of Amadou Ba as Beno Bok Yaka's candidate, Njai decided to run for the contest and be the president in the country. Well, David Vincent who has this profile that has the sound of presidential candidate Ali Ngul.
We are aiming for food sovereignty during our term of office, and to achieve this, we are going to provide the necessary resources. The Senegalese will no longer need to export food products. Industrialization will also be at the heart of our program. We are going to focus on processing the products harvested by our farmers, which will help create jobs for young people and women and restore hope.
We
need a railroad, and that's part of our program to network Senegal. We are lucky enough to have iron ore that hasn't been exploited for age. And we think that today we need synergistic unites to exploit the railway. And I've already outlined this in my program.
There you have it there, what he plans to do when he wins the race as the president of the country. Candidate Ali Ngul there speaking. Well, up next is Ali Mamadou Njai of the Unity and Rally Party, PUR. Less well known to the Senegalese population, well, the former United Nations official is presenting a program for society with a particular emphasis on youth. Well, Mamadou Njai speaks of his agenda.
Nous allons créer, c'est dans notre projet, le plus grand.
Our plan is to create the biggest job incubator for young people. We don't want to see any more of our brilliant, talented, and creative young people leaving our beloved country to sink into the Atlantic. I say to the young people of Senegal, don't leave, stay here. We are going to build this country with you. You are going to contribute the construction efforts to the development efforts of our beloved country. 70% of our population is under 35. I'm going to give young people their due. We are going to set up what we have called the Youth High Council. You will be among the decision makers with us.
Vous ferez partie des décideurs avec nous.
There you have it, Mamadou Njai speaking there of his agenda. Well, he intends to include the youth with his special program for the society. Now, in the race for the presidency this season is one of the foremost leaders of the opposition for more than 2 decades, Déthié Fall. Now, Fall is a member of the opposition main group, Yewwi Askan Wi Coalition.
Nous avons travaillé sérieusement et avec la coalition aussi à travers le programme que nous avons élaboré.
We have worked seriously and with the coalition as well through the program we have developed, which is called Senegal, Good to Live and Good to Have, to provide precise answers to these different concerns. We have worked on agriculture, but especially on industrialization to ensure a sustainable growth in our country.
Sur l'industrialisation.
We have worked on education, health, and have also worked on infrastructure to regulate territorial inequality and ensure that wherever Senegalese people are, they can have decent living conditions.
Sénégalais se trouvent qu'ils puissent disposer de conditions de vie décentes. 20 ans que j'ai eu à faire dans l'opposition avec vous.
I have been in the opposition for 20 years, with you, by your side, in the cities, villages, and the most remote areas of the country.
Naturellement.
These different joinings have naturally allowed me to live with you during the different difficulties, but to note the strong deficiency of the national fabric, both from an economic and social point of view.
Du point de vue économique et social.
There you have it, Déthié Fall there. He is a member of the opposition main group, Yewwi Askan Wi Coalition. Well, Senegal's immediate past Prime Minister and a flag bearer of the ruling Beno Bok Yaka, Amadou Ba, is on the candidates list for today's ballot. Ba is one of the heavyweights, according to public opinion, has promised to take Senegal to the next level of development. So what more measure is Amadou Ba undertaking if elected into office? Well, let's listen to him.
I am committed to consolidating our achievements, protecting and promoting our values, and deepening democracy. I am committed to carrying out the necessary reforms for an even more efficient public administration. We are a hospitable and supportive people. I have the responsibility with you to consolidate this long tradition in a nation still radiant. I want to be the president of a youth to give them new reasons for hope. Every young Senegalese has the right to quality training to serve his country. I will be the president of youth and entrepreneurship. I want every Senegalese to find decent houses in a healthy living environment. I want every Senegalese to benefit from quality health care. I want every family to feel a clear improvement in their purchasing power. I want national wealth to benefit each and everyone in a climate of peace, stability, and harmony.
There you have it, the former Prime Minister Amadou Ba, who is on the list of candidates for today's ballot. Well, you've heard the measures he said that he will undertake if elected into office. Well, at this point, let's welcome our listeners joining us live on Numi FM 94.0 in North Bank region of the Gambia. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us all the way from the Gambia. Now, our next candidate is Idrissa Seck. He is also on the starting line for this presidential election. He is one of the regulars in this race. This will be Seck's fourth attempt to be regarded as the country's #1 civil servant. In this portrait, the former mayor of Chess explains why he left the outgoing president just 10 months ago.
Some of my fellow citizens reproached me for my alliances with Macky Sall during COVID-19. If I was one of the talks and destroyers, we would be talking about Senegal in the past tense. Anyone who must do the right thing can't side with the talks. I have held numerous consultations with leading figures. From these consultations, it has emerged that with my background and experience, I am the right man to lead the country. We have a huge task ahead of us because the high cost of living, the high cost of water and electricity bills, and the high cost of rent are suffocating households. And we have solutions to all these problems.
Well, report just coming in has it that the incumbent President Macky Sall is just about to cast his vote in the Fatick region. Where this is about 9:44 a.m. and the outgoing president is casting his vote. Well, from the feed we are getting from our colleagues on the field, yes, he's about to drop his vote, and the president has voted in this election. Well, you heard it first here on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM. Well, let's go back to hearing what the candidates are offering in this election. Well, the next one is Boubacar Camara. Well, vying for the #1 political office of Senegal is a former director of Senegalese customs, a former minister, and a former inspector general, Boubacar Camara. Camara was among those to close the electoral campaign by Friday midnight. The former senior uniform personnel says to commit to the fight against bad governance with a deep sense of responsibility. Well, as Francis, let's hear more from Camara.
It saddens me to see the corruption, excessive public debt, the suffering of our people due to poverty, ignorance, unemployment, insecurity, and disease. Women and young people are the great sufferers in this deterioration. Our country is badly governed. Once a democratic showcase, Senegal is messed now, and its image is too often and very seriously distorted. My plan, Tabac, built, and the Jagal repair plan, master of the order, constitute the sustainable solution. We are working for a different and better managed Senegal, with in particular the depoliticization of justice and public administration. It is time to proceed with the choice of competent, virtuous rulers who are integrated and committed, ready to lead the adequate changes and capable of bringing together our compatriots.
There you have it. Boubacar Kamara telling us what he intends to do when he wins in the election. Well, the First Lady of the nation is also voting at this point, where we just told you a couple of minutes or seconds ago that the outgoing president, Macky Sall, has just voted in the Fatick region. And along him, of course, the cabinet, foreign diplomat, and government officials are all there to vote with him. All right, so let's look at Bashiru Jamai Faye, now of the now-dissolved party of opposition politician Usman Sonko and member of the Yewi Askanwi coalition, who is vying for the presidency. Well, they call him the firebrand. Incarcerated last year, April, until his release last week, Jamai Faye stands as the grassroots most favorite owing to the support received from his mentor, Sonko. Well, the young politician has promised swift, radical socio-economic reforms, including the introduction of local currency once elected into office. Well, take a listen to an excerpt of his speech shortly before his arrest.
Le président Ousmane Sonko et nous-mêmes nous sommes avertis à expliquer ce qu'il fallait.
President Ousmane Sonko and ourselves have gone to great lengths to explain what is meant by the term system. When Ousmane Sonko went to see President Abdoulaye Wade on his way out, he clearly explained that a distinction had to be made between practices and people. There are people in the APR today who cannot be subject of any legal proceedings because they have managed virtuously. These people are in the line with the ideas that we advocate and that some of our predecessors advocated. So we need to look at those who are involved in these practices and all those who are not. If all those who belong to a regime can be lumped together, then there would no longer be any reason to distinguish between those who are virtuous and those who commit financial offenses, those who embezzle, those who do other things from those who have remained in line with what the law prescribes to do in that country.
Ceux qui détournent, ceux qui font autre chose de ceux qui sont restés à cheval par rapport à ce que la loi prescrit de faire dans ce pays-là.
All right, there you have it. Candidate Bashir Jamai Faye. There was an incredible incident that happened just a couple of minutes ago. Still monitoring the voting process of President Macky Sall, the First Lady, and all the government officials from the Fatick region. Well, the ballot paper fell off the hand of the First Lady, and that caused a little amusement among government officials around there. All right, well, let's continue with the mandates of the candidate. Our next is 65-year-old former Prime Minister Mohamed Boun Abdallah Dionne is counting on his experience of public service to re-engineer Senegal's working structure. Now, the former close associate of outgoing President Macky Sall is running for office, but says he won't stay for long if elected. An economist by profession, Boun Abdallah Dionne, during his campaign presented a social program that will go quickly once effective.
Islam Brotherhood is the last defense against violent extremism that is taking place in Africa, particularly in West Africa. One single ambition is to protect the nation from the drift of violent extremism, from the drift of everything that is against the republic, from the drift of everything that is against democracy.
Well, there you have it. Candidate Mohamed Boun Abdallah Dionne there, the 65-year-old former Prime Minister, telling us what he intends to do, and of course to re-engineer Senegal's working structure. Well, let's turn attention now to Malik Gakou, another of the candidates in Senegal's 2024 presidential post. Gakou is a trained economist who heads the Grand Party of Senegal and presents himself as the candidate who wants to industrialize his country. An expert in Senegalese politics, Malik Gakou enumerated his highly ambitious project when elected the next president of Senegal. Hello, Gabirica tells us more.
J'envisage dans mon programme de développer.
I plan to develop Senegal and make it industrialized country. We know that in our country what we call in economics jargon decapitalization. For instance, the Senegalese, we consume what we don't produce. As long as we continue to consume what we don't produce, we obviously won't be able to set in motion a process of industrialization that will enable us to deal with the unemployment rate in the country. That is why I am putting industrialization at the heart of my concerns for the Senegal of tomorrow. This program involves agricultural development and the development of the primary sector. In our country, the primary sector, which employs 80% of the population, accounts for only 20% of gross domestic product. This is why I want to reverse the development curve and ensure that development and economic growth are driven by the national private sector, like agriculture, fishing, and livestock.
All right, there you have it, Maligaku there sharing his plan for Senegal. Like I mentioned, he says he wants to industrialize this country and he's going to do it swiftly, a trained economist at that. Well, at this point, after voting, President Macky Sall will be addressing the electorate in Fatigue. He's setting up to be addressed. We'll give you the details of his speech in the course of this live broadcast. Well, let's look at another candidate here. Many say he has politics in his DNA since he belongs to a family with a long history of public service. Mamadou Lamine Diallo, son of a former minister, made his debut appearance in 2007 as an independent candidate. Although unsuccessful at his previous attempts, the leader of the MLD Techie 2024 coalition is determined to secure the presidency because of his shared vision for Senegal, driven by knowledge and expertise.
I invite you to join us in our national redressal agenda. We will do everything we can to make Senegal a more complex place. The President of the Republic has told you about the institutions. He has too much power, and I support him.
Chers concitoyens, ensemble avec vous.
Dear fellow citizens, together with you, we can execute the national redressal agenda that opens the doors to the greatness of Senegal. Together, by 2040 to 2045, we can make Senegal in West Africa one of the largest economies in the world. And it is possible. I invite you to do so.
Je vous y convie.
There you have it there. Mamadou Lamine Diallo, son of a former minister, speaking about his plan and what he intends to do for the country. All right, let's focus now on the leader of the Pro-On-Senegal Nouveau, meaning for a new Senegal coalition. Mamboy is another dissident in the ruling coalition who wants to succeed Macky Sall. The tax and property inspector was sacked from the general management of the Caisse de Dépôt after voicing his opposition to the choice of Amadou Ba as the presidential party's candidate. He says he is determined to redefine Senegal.
Je me tiens devant vous, non pas simplement comme un candidat à la présidence.
I stand before you not only as a candidate for the presidency, but as a Senegalese deeply invested in our common future. Youth, which is both our present and our future, deserve educational and professional opportunities that correspond to the challenges of the 21st century. We must reform our educational system so that it promotes innovation, entrepreneurship, and civil education. Artisans, farmers, and fishermen are the pillars of our economic vision and identity. I commit to implementing targeted policies to support this sector.
Je m'engage à mettre en place des politiques ciblées pour soutenir ces secteurs vitaux. Une vision politique moderne de la femme sénégalaise doit reposer sur des valeurs universelles.
A modern political vision of the Senegalese woman must be based on universal values of gender equality and individual emancipation. It is our duty to guarantee women equitable access to education, health, employment, and the political sphere. I invite you to join me in this collective adventure to build a resilient, united, strong, and conquering Senegal capable of facing the challenges of the 21st century with courage and ingenuity.
All right, the candidate for a new Senegal coalition, Mam Boy there, we're told he's another descent in the ruling coalition who wants to succeed President Macky Sall. Well, Pape Djibril is one of the young wolves of this presidential election. The young man has made a name for himself through his highly committed and above all educational political columns in Future Media's television. He wasted no time in riding this wave of popularity to stand as a candidate in the last legislative elections. He succeeded in being elected under the banner of his party, Les Serviteurs.
A dialogue that dies of dilatory tactics shows a lack of consideration and respect for one's future replacement. No, we will not be taking part in this dialogue.
Non, nous n'irons pas à ce dialogue. L'heure de la réconciliation.
Now more than ever is the time for our country to be reconciled, straightened up, and refocused. This is what my candidacy is all about, and what we must all work towards together as a people, as a goal, once and for all.
Une fois.
Well, there you have it, the young man there, Pape Djibril, telling us what he intends to do for Senegal when he comes on board as president of the country. Now, this former mayor of Dakar and flag bearer of Tawu coalition believes he is best placed today to succeed Macky Sall. Well, Sall will only contest in this year's election after receiving a presidential pardon for an act of self-defense that had been incarcerated. Well, we move on down to another candidate. Up next is an unconventional candidate, Cesarian Mboub, the mayor of Kaolack in central Senegal, who becomes the first Arabic speaker to stand as a presidential candidate in the country. Mboub is positioning himself as an alternative to the intellectual elite who have graduated from Western universities. Let's take a listen to him.
L'indépendance était censée nous libérer.
Independence was supposed to liberate us, but our leaders who have behaved like royalty have promoted incompetence, complexity, humiliation, and poverty. Only our cardinal value, shamelessness, prevents us from crying out loud and clear. Let the cry of the youth resound at the bottom of the ocean and abroad.
Résonne au fond de l'océan et à l'étranger. Beaucoup s'interrogent sur mon implication.
Many people question my involvement in these elections. Yes, I could manage my affairs and collaborate with those in power, but my moral duty compels me to get involved in politics to serve and develop my country. Change is possible because, as our Creator says, God does not change the state of a people until they change what is within themselves.
All right, there you have it, the presidential candidate there, Cesarian Mboub, who sees himself as an unconventional candidate and, of course, a former mayor of Kaolack in central Senegal. Well, our next candidate is Thierno Alassane Sall. We continue with the presentation of their mandate. Thierno Alassane Sall, the former energy minister, sacked from President Macky Sall's government for refusing to sign an oil contract, and now president of the Republic of Values Party, describes himself as a fighter against corruption and seeks the top job. Well, what else is he saying?
If we want Senegal to be a developed country, we must necessarily resolve the problem of institutions, with a National Assembly at the service of the people and an independent judiciary. We are committed to fighting corruption, which is rampant in the current government. It is because of corruption that the transport sector is unable to develop. It's because of corruption that farmers are having problems in the fields. It is because of corruption that young people are also taking the illegal immigration route. With me, Senegal will be a self-sufficient producer.
All right, there you have it there, and I hope as he makes his plan, we wish him all the best. Journalist and South there. Well, remember that he was a former energy minister and sacked from the President Maxwell's government for refusing to sign an oil contract. Now president of the Republic of Mali's party, describing himself as a strong fighter. Well, last candidate on the list is Professor Dauda Njai. Well, he was able to get successfully past the sponsorship control in January, and he promises to take Senegal to the next level. Let's listen to his profile.
Professor Dauda Njai presents himself first and foremost as a true child of the country, having been born and raised in Pekin on the outskirts of Senegal. The doctor justifies his candidacy with a desire to bring change to Senegalese politics, far from traditional politicians. With his action movement, Professor Dauda Njai is renowned for his social work, which aims to improve people's living conditions. His political coalition, Dauda 2024, presents this and other initiatives to attract voters. The doctor, who describes himself as a man of action, has a program for change far from political promises. It is a program for society that will affect all sectors with particular emphasis on health. He intends to draw on his experience as a doctor and founder of an institution dedicated to health, research and innovation. Professor Dauda Njai there, his profile by Oge Obierika. Well, those are some of the profiles and mandates of the 19 candidates you've just listened. And this is Senegal Decides 2024. It's 3 minutes past the top of the hour. If you're just joining us in Liberia, the Gambia, Ghana, we say thank you for your time and for tuning in through our partner stations in those countries. Now, transparent elections or sham polling stations. This is a debate raging in Senegal as millions go out today to elect a new president. Rumors are circulating, claiming the existence of fictitious polling centers during elections. But is this the case? Biram Sen, Director of Training and Communication at the Directorate General of Elections, provides some hard facts to help us sort out the real from the fake.
Rumors claiming the existence of fictitious polling stations for these elections are totally unfounded. All polling stations are located at specific sites. The idea that fictitious polling stations could exist in the Senegalese system is erroneous. For any electoral operation requires the mandatory presence of Sena and representatives of each candidate, whether at the polling station level or at the level of the Departmental Commission. For the enumeration of votes, candidate representatives are present and enjoy specific rights in these bodies. Anyone claiming the existence of fictitious polling stations should provide tangible evidence to back up their assertions. Furthermore, the claim that provisional shelters are fictitious is also erroneous, given that some candidates have exercised their voting rights in these provisional shelters. It is therefore important to rectify this misinformation and stick to the facts.
There you have it, the Biram Sena, the Director of Training and Communications at the Directorate General of Elections. Meanwhile, nearly 150 election observers from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, are monitoring Senegal's general election process from start to finish. This number comprises short and long-term observers. Professor Ibrahim Gambari, Nigeria's former Minister of Foreign Affairs and one UN Under-Secretary, is head of the ECOWAS mission to Senegal. He explains more about the composition of his team. Let's take a listen.
This is put together by the ECOWAS Commission. We have two sets of observers. First, the short term and the longer term to look at the environment before, during, and also after the election. And it's composed of very senior officials of the Commission, but also from member states, parliamentarians, experts, people from ECOWAS Parliament, the judiciary, and all the rest of them, just to show the importance that ECOWAS attaches to supporting the people of Senegal in their commitment to free and fair election, to democracy, to good governance, and to human rights. Well, to thank His Excellency, the President of the ECOWAS Commission, for the opportunity to serve in this very critical and high-level position as head of the ECOWAS election observer mission in Senegal for the presidential election. And of course, the first word is to say that ECOWAS is ready, able and willing to accompany the electoral process and to ensure that the best practices are accomplished, and that the outcome that this region needs, this country needs, is a free, fair, transparent election in a peaceful atmosphere. I think in the 70s, they were one of the first countries to opt for multi-party democracy, and they have set an example of change of government by constitutional means, and this tradition, this legacy should be continued, and the people of Senegal, all the stakeholders, to come together to ensure that we have a peaceful, credible elections, because the impact is not only for the development of this country, for the good of the people of Senegal, but for the region and for West Africa and the continent as a whole.
All right, there you have it. Professor Ibrahim Gambari, Nigeria's former Minister of Foreign Affairs and a one-time UN Under-Secretary, is the head of the ECOWAS mission to Senegal. All right, let's cross over now to the field and find out what is happening and who has voted and what is the current situation there. And we have my colleague joining me there, Taufik Abdul Nasser. Taufik, good morning to you, and what is the situation on ground?
Yeah, good morning, Imo. Well, the situation at Masanian polling station is really calm. The process is going on very smoothly, I must say.
Well, can you compare this to the, previous elections which we've covered? Particularly, you said the situation there is really calm, and we are seeing some of the, live feeds on YouTube for those on YouTube and Facebook. Can you compare this to what we saw in other elections like Liberia, Nigeria?
Right. So I would say, yes, there is this calm. And then when I even spoke to some of these voters, what they told me was that compared to previous elections, this, they would say, is one of the calm. And then this is the one that they can even say the materials arrived on time, and then voting started on time. So I would say compared to last year, per some of the views I've gotten from the voters, it is really better than last year.
What was your mood?
And mind you, this is the same polling center where the mayor of Dakar will be voting. That is Barthélemy Diaz. And Barthélemy Diaz is supporting this candidate, Khalifa Sall, one of the candidates.
Opposition,
Yes. So we are still waiting to see what time he's also going to cast his vote.
Well, Taufik, are the people tired? Some of the people you spoke with, are they tired already, or are they excited about the fact that finally election is holding despite all the chaos that has led to the build-up of this election?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they are really happy. One interesting thing I also observed was that there are lots of, aged men and women, some in crosses, but they still want to vote. Somebody even fell in the process of, getting his votes cast. And, it was quite interesting to see the patriotism level. And speaking to some of these voters, they are so excited that finally the election is holding, and hopefully they are going to see change, because that is what all of them are actually talking about. They want change.
Well, Taufik, how early did voting start?
Well, the voting started at 8 a.m. exactly, and some voters actually got here at 7 a.m. and still waiting for the materials to be ready for them to cast their ballots. And then also in this polling station, they have 9 divisions. It has 9 divisions. Yes, that is the Masa Nyan polling center. They have 9 divisions, and all this polling space, all this when you get there, you see it is all choked, it is all packed, and more people are coming in. As more are going, others are trooping in. It looks like it's not going to end anytime soon.
Indeed. Well, what's mostly the case scenario? I mean, if this uh, voting extends, I mean, if this line extends, because from the live feeds, the video feeds we are getting, like you have described, everywhere looks so calm. I mean, nothing is, people are just there. The elderly ones are coming in, like you mentioned. Everywhere looks so calm and so serene.
Right.
How is the process fast? I mean, voting. How approximately? How many minutes does it take,
process
like
is
one
really
one
fast
voter?
because at least it doesn't take more than 3 minutes for a voter to be able to finish. And when speaking to some of them, they were like, everybody how fast the process is. That is why they were comparing it to previous elections, that this they think is better than previous elections. So the voting process is actually going very fast. Yes, you see a lot of people trooping in as I speak to you, a lot of people at the gate. And another observation I made is that a lot of policemen are stationed here, honestly. So trust me, the place is really safe. Even myself, I am feeling very safe. So the number of police officials or security operatives that you see around, you would think this is the main center. Like this is where is more or less like the coalition center.
Mm. Well, just before I let you go, Tofik, how about party agents? Is this the case? Have you seen party agents, party officials around the voting booth there?
Yes, the party agents are around. You can never do without these people. On this day, they are so busy, walking up and down, helter skelter. And then we also had some election observers who also came around earlier, even though they wouldn't want to speak now. Yes, but then they also came around to inspect. They came with the media men, actually, to cover the situation, to know what is actually going on. So we saw them also around. The party agents, of course, they are going up and down, but most of them wouldn't want to speak. As at now, they want to make sure that their voters are in their numbers, because everybody is trying to make that count. That they have all their voters attending, or all their voters coming through.
Indeed, Tofik, thank you so much there, and do stay put. We'll be coming to you in the course of this broadcast.
Right. Thank you, Imo.
All right, well, Tofik Abdul Nasser there on the field, bringing us up to date of happenings there at his polling station. And like if you haven't seen our YouTube video, please, we urge you to log on to WADR News on YouTube and get to see the live feeds, what Tofik is describing. It is a calm atmosphere there where he is, and even when the president voted and everything seems to be going normal, people are voting, and it's taking approximately 3 to 4 minutes for one voter to come on board, vote, and then leave for others to come on and vote. Well, let's cross over now and join Augustine Coley, who is also on the field, to bring us update from his center. Hello, Augustine. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Imo. It's a pleasure to be with you on the line from a voting center here in Dakar, Commute.
All right. So what's the situation where you are?
At the moment, I am at the Mamadou Jainin Voting Center, where there are 8 polling places. The situation is calm, especially with the presence of gendarmes and the military personnel from the Senegalese army. And the voting at this center, I visited the first center before coming at the Mamadou Jainin voting center. The voting process began at about 8 this morning, and there were people already in queue before the polls were officially opened to them. And there are numbers of people here, especially with adults, and young people are also coming. Most interestingly is to see elderly women. You know, they are all seated. Some are unable to, continue being on the line, so they are seated. When it's their turn, they are being allowed to stand in the queue and then cast their ballots. So far, the process is calm, except for a few individuals that we spoke with, and they said they are returning home on the basis that the queues are long, and so they are unable to remain in the queues until their term reaches. So they are going home to rest, and they will return when the queue reduces. That will be during the afternoon or evening hours. But so far, the situation is calm, and the process is going on smoothly.
Indeed. Well, what other thing are you seeing young people? Because the expectation is that there's going to be a lot of young, new voters, new young people taking part in this election. Have you been able to come across young people of notable age that you would say this is a first-time voter?
Well, just a few when it comes to young people of maybe the first-time voting age. There is just a few of them. But in terms of young people overall, I mean, the young adults are in their numbers as compared to maybe one you would turn as first-time voters. But the adults are in their numbers, more than the youth from these two voting centers that I have so far visited. That is the El Haj by Job School, where there are 15 polling places, and that of the Mamadou Jainin School. And you should note that here at the Mamadou Jainin Voting Center, presidential candidate Aliou Mamadou Jai is expected to cast his ballot right here at the Mamadou Jainin Voting Center. And so we are awaiting, and the moment that he arrives, we will be able to capture him and get some words from him.
Indeed, Augustine. Thanks so much for that insight. Just stay put. We'll be coming to you in the course of this broadcast. All right, there, Augustine Coley on the field telling us the situation on ground. Well, hundreds of Senegalese in the Gambia are turning out to cast their vote from faiths we are getting from our correspondent, Sakule Janko, in Banjul. So, aside the Gambia, there are also Senegalese in diaspora in France, other countries. They have already started voting as it is. Okay, yeah, so we do have Sankule on the line there from Banjul. Sankule, good morning to you. Hello, Sankule, you're on. Sankule, we can hear noises at the polling center where you are. Can you talk to us, Sankule, if you're there? Okay, we will try and establish contact with Sankule Janko, our correspondent in Banjul, the Gambia. And from the live feeds, we are seeing voters already churning out in their numbers to cast their vote in this election. Well, many people have described this election that is happening in the holy month of Ramadan as solemn. I mean, this is after so much chaos in the past 1.5 years, it is finally happening. And as such, even from the report you've heard from Tawfiq and Augustine, it's a solemn atmosphere. I mean, not a lot of people are talking to each other. You can actually sense the seriousness in this particular event. I mean, people just want to let's vote and get done with it. From the feedbacks we got. All right, while we wait to establish, okay, we do have Sankule on the line from Banjul in the Gambia. Sankule, good morning to you. And how is the Smiling Coast this morning?
The Smiling Coast is smiling based on the weather. Everything is all right. It's a chilly, Sunday morning here in Banjul. And of course, it's a Sunday morning in the Smiling Coast of West Africa.
Indeed. Well,
good morning to you, Imo.
Tell us how many people are there where you are and what is the process like?
Like, I wouldn't be able to know to give you the exact figures of the number of people that are here, because people are coming and people are leaving as well. Once you cast your vote, you leave. But I can tell you that we have quite a number of people here. First of all, I am at the Serekunda Primary School here in the Kanifing Municipal Council, and this is the biggest, region in the Gambia in terms of the number of Senegalese residents here in the Gambia. There's quite a number of people here. I can tell you hundreds of people are here. Long queues on various polling stations. We have about 5 of them here. You have polling station 1, 2, 3, up to 5. And I can tell you that there are quite a number of people here, in queue waiting for their turn to cast their votes.
Sakule, what is the mood like? How excited are the people? Looking at the build up to this election and the chaos that has characterized the process. What are the mood of the people like? For those that you have been able to maybe have a chat with or exchange pleasantries with.
I think the right word, if you ask me, would be exciting at the same time, but I would think relief. Remember, based on look at the scenarios or the events surrounding the run up to these elections. As you were aware, it was postponed, and later on a date was set. The Constitutional Council have to insist that votes has to be done in this month. So there are a lot of anxiety. There were a lot of people didn't know whether the votes will actually take place. But finally, now that the day is here, people are excited. At the same time, they are relieved that, okay, the day is finally here. Let's get done with this once and for all, and perhaps look for the future. That's the mood here right now in the Gambia.
Well, for Gambians that have been following this development in Senegal closely, what has really been their reaction and what has been their fear, looking at the fact that the brotherliness and the closeness with Senegal is not something to joke with?
You have to understand that, the Gambia and Senegal, like you said, talking about the closeness is even beyond that. Almost every Gambian has a relative in Senegal, whether it's your mom or your uncle or your brother, your cousin. Let's take an example of myself. My mom is Senegalese, and there are so many people like me in the Gambia. So Gambians are, of course, closely monitoring the events in Senegal as well as here. In fact, I'll tell you, almost every Gambian has a candidate of their own, has a candidate that they think would be the best for both Senegal and Gambia. So Gambians are closely monitoring, not because they are only neighbors, but because this election will affect them directly and indirectly. They have relatives in Senegal, and at the same time, looking at the closeness, like you said. For the Gambian foreign policy, for example, Senegal is the most important country in terms of Gambian's foreign policy. So this election means to the Gambians, and they are closely monitoring events both here in the Gambia as well as in Dakar and thereabout other towns in Senegal.
Talking about diaspora votes now, Sankuli, just before we let you go, tell us how many minutes approximately does it take one voter to vote?
I'll tell you this, Abdullah. The process is very, very, very smooth, and it's very fast. I've been here as early as 8 o'clock, and the polls officially open here in this particular polling center at 8 o'clock. And I'll tell you that it's just a matter of a minute or so. You'll just enter at the door. You show your ID card, your voter's card. Once you show that you have you have party representatives sitting on the left, and on the right we have polling officials on the right. Once you show your documents and they've been authenticated, they'll give you a card, and you look at the candidate of your choice. You take, and then you just place in your card, and they'll ink your finger, your last finger, and then you leave. The process is quite smooth, and it's very, very fast as well. Within a minute or so, you are voting. You voted, and you are out of this place.
Indeed, Sankule Janko, thank you so much for your time. We'll be joining you in our next edition for an update on the voting process there in the Gambia. Thank you, Sankule. Well, that was our man, Sankule Janko, in the Gambia, bringing us update regarding diaspora vote. And he says the process there is very, very smooth. A very large number of observers have been deployed throughout Senegal to monitor the presidential election now to ensure that the democratic process is respected. The Senegalese Human Rights Committee held a press conference to raise awareness among its observers who are deployed in several regions. Well, Abdullah Hassan has a report on this.
The Senegalese Human Rights Committee has deployed 54 observers in the field. Spread over 8 regions of the country, these observers have the task of monitoring the conduct of the election. This is a first for the committee, according to its president, Pape Sène.
De par le passé, nous avons eu à monitorer des élections.
In the past, we have monitored elections, but for the first time, the committee will deploy on the ground, as well as some international and national observers. It's not just the committee. There are other observers who will be on the ground, the European Union, the African Union. So, the committee will deploy on the ground, as Jacob said, in certain regions to try to follow the rules of the democratic game so that we have free, transparent and democratic elections.
Pour qu'on ait des élections libres, transparentes et démocratiques.
Present at the conference, Ayeda Robert Kochani, regional representative of the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights in West Africa, called on the various observers to be rigorous and neutral in the field.
Vous serez visible sur le terrain.
You will be visible on the field, and your presence will play a very important role in the framework of the confidence that the population can have in the process. In fact, to strengthen the confidence of the population in the process, because you emanate from a national institution of human rights that the state has put in place, that you are essentially guided by principles of rigor in your work, of objectivity, neutrality, reminding you that you are only observers. You will make a comparison in all cases, so don't get involved in the processes, please.
Donc ne vous immiscez pas dans les processus, s'il vous plaît.
In 3 months' time, the Senegalese Human Rights Committee will publish a report to inform the Senegalese people about its observation mission. The committee will then submit its report to the Ministry of the Interior and the Autonomous National Electoral Commission.
All right, Abdullah Hassan with that report. And it's time for us to say goodbye on this edition of Senegal Decides 2024, the English version. Thank you so much for your time. And, of course, many thanks to our listeners on Radio Pod Damango in Ghana for joining us live in Liberia. We say thank you to our listeners on Kwateke Radio 100.9 FM, Banga, Liberia, Bomi County, Liberia, and Radio Kagaman in Ganta, Nimba County, both in Liberia. And in the Gambia, we say thank you to our listeners on Numi FM 94.0 North Bank region there in the Gambia. Thanks so much to my colleagues Abdullah Sano, Gibiri, Kamado Juf, and Chris Mukudi for the technical support. I am Imoidet. Do join us at midday as we'll be bringing you updates of the Senegal Decides 2024.
You just listened to the live coverage of the presidential election.